All right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Readers. I have to say, I am incredibly embarrassed about yesterday's video. I made a 25-minute video. I covered so many stocks. There was absolutely no sound at all. So I apologize so much, but I'm gonna do my best to cover as many as I did on yesterday's video that I ended up deleting. And you'll see, I'm gonna go over a bunch of different sectors in a lot of ways. So I'll start with BBAI. And look, if you've watched my videos before, I never use the words buy, sell, and hold. And really, I rarely let you know what I'm doing with my personal money. All right. I don't want someone to be like, oh, the chart reader dude is doing it. I should probably follow, right? Like, no, no, no. That's not the move. But I'm gonna give you a little bit more insight of what I'm doing with my shares and what I'm doing with BBAI right now. Because look, what has now been almost 2 full weeks of trading since this doji right here on July 3rd, all the way, I mean, really through today. This has been in the 50-50 zone. It's been more dojis than full candles. And I mean, it's just, this is tough trading. And really, what was my excitement on volume is actually starting to become a real big concern. And obviously you can see it's that, right? Like that's not good. But what I'll talk about shortly is we're struggling with the white line, with this average 50-day volume line. And that is actually the biggest concern. Obviously, you have red over green right there. You actually have red over green right there. Not things I want to see, but yeah, I'm really not liking the volume. And again, I've been talking about this 50-50 zone for, like I said, what's now coming up on 2 full weeks, right? Oh, my wife just got home. Good, my door's closed. Perfect. So from there, the next one I want to look at is USAR, okay? Man, nothing is financial advice, and I say I'm more wrong than I'm right, and I really do mean that. But I was really liking USAR yesterday, and I was saying it almost everywhere. Worth eyes. That's from right, like USAR. I threw it on Twitter too. I don't know if I threw it on the YouTube post, but there was a lot to like on yesterday's candle, especially given what we saw on this gap up, hold, and go, right? So I'll talk about that a bunch. Volume's been great. And I mean, what I really like about this chart is there's not much. We're really knocking on the door of what's possibly a golden line, and I'll talk about what I'm kind of looking for next. But there just really is a lot to like at what we're sitting at right now with USAR. And really, in a lot of ways, that's still a healthy RSI. That's a good MACD. It's really all about volume and confirmation at this point, right? So I want to also talk about TMC. I'm really liking what's going on right here, right? Yesterday, and you can see it. So yeah, right here, look, yesterday was the 14th. Not a lot happening during most of the day. And then all of a sudden, I mean, let's just look at the hourly. I think it'll be even easier to see it. Yesterday, in the last 2, 3 hours, no, yeah, just these two, the last 2 hours, this stock went wild, right? And today was a nice little baby continuation, we'll call it, right? But I like that doji. I liked yesterday's candle. MACD, RSI, volume. I mean, things are looking good here. And really, let me just flash this real quick. YT, good post right here. Rare earth minerals are going wild. This was a beautiful post from 5 days ago. Literally every single one of these went off. OMEX, I'm very much liking right now. AREC, I honestly didn't look at these last two. I saw them this morning and they're both beautiful double digits, right? MP, I was talking about the Pentagon headline. Pentagon is now the biggest shareholder at MP. So all of these are really looking solid. I'll just flash OMEX real quick on this just in case I don't have time. Oh my goodness, look at that close. Even better than I expected. High of the day, 175. Close of the day, 175. People were literally buying and buying and buying and buying till the market was like, hey, get out of here. We're closed. Come back tomorrow, you know? Look at that MACD, RSI, OMEX looking real nice. And again, USAR, TMC, OMEX, those other tickers that, again, these are not financial. This is just educated opinions and thoughts from like-minded people, right? So take a look at those that I'll try to throw in. And then the last one I want to talk about is SBET. Okay, So first off, SBET was one that I talked about during my YouTube live, and honestly, I think it was brought up around here. All right. One thing I said was, hey, I would much rather a trade up here than down here. I was kind of wrong, right? Obviously, a lot of good things happened in between, right? But one thing I always say is you don't need to start, you don't need to catch the start. You can do really well if you catch it later and it keeps going, and that's kind of what's happening here. We talked about SBET a couple days ago, and I'll flash the Discord later when I show this, but the thought was, hey, we're basically filling the gap, right? We went from down here all the way. I mean, it looks like to the penny. This thing opens at 29.16. We're 16 cents short from it, right? So we completely fill the gap right there, right? That starts to make the question, is that it or is there more, right? Obviously a really high RSI in the 90s, but as you look at the weekly, there's some interesting thoughts to be had about, maybe a little bit longer term play on this one, right? And you know me, I'm a short term dude. I prefer the daily, but there's a reason we always look at the weekly, right? So this is a solid group of tickers I would love to talk about. I'm checking one more time and it does look like sound is working. So embarrassing yesterday. How do I say this? Let's come into it because I know I saw it on the 15 minute. It was a great day for the NASDAQ today. All right. We opened down, we closed down here yesterday and then opened all the way up here at 560. Look at that monster pop right there, right? We're pretty much holding it almost the entirety of the day. I go on one call around 11, which is probably this window right here, because again, I'm West Coast, right? These are East Coast times. I just saw this thing drop for what seemed like no reason, and really, it kind of continued the whole day, right? And what we're looking at on the QQQ, which again is identical to NASDAQ, right? It's just easier to type QQQ. Yes, they're both green for sure. Yes, this is obviously a day where we were down here yesterday and up here. It's for sure green and up. This isn't a good green candle. I like it to be open outline, not filled in, right? Because the problem, like we said, it opens up here at 20,800 plus and then drops a full percent all the way down to 20,006, right? So that's not really a good day on the Nasdaq. I don't want to see a drop of a percent, right? So that's a little bothersome. You can see the green over red. Look, end of the day, we're still over all the moving averages, right? I have no reason to think bad unless we lose that 8 moving average right there, right? SP 500, on the other hand, is not over the 8 MA anymore. This did the exact same gap up in the morning. Let's come back to the 15 minute. This did the exact same drop and continue through the day, right? And what that made us do is now go below the 8. Okay, so obviously this is just a single candle, right? But I don't want to lose the 8 and fall all the way down there to the 20. That's not going to be a good thing, right? And again, you're seeing these lower indicators. And then when we look at the Dow Jones, this one looks even worse than all of them, right? Because this one was trying to get back over it and staying under. So to me, what all this says is, hey, for now, tech is the best. For now, tech is the only one over the 8 moving average. My focus really is on tech, if anything. Otherwise, like I said, it's a lot of this rare earth play because there's some silly things happening just in the world, right? I'll just go to and because I remember us talking about this earlier. Come on, I know I used the giant word and right here, around here. Oh, hey, by the way, look at C. Look at Citibank. It actually looks good. Look, there was an Apple headline that's connected to rare earth minerals and tickers. There was also a recent EPA approval for NAC. You know what I mean? And I'm seeing some stuff that the US might send weapons to Ukraine, and there's a bunch of rare earth there, right? So, tech because NASDAQ's over the lines, and then rare earth because of all those things I've been saying is basically what I'm focusing on. All right, so cool. Before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our 5 moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms. But for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so appreciative of it, all right? So let's get into BBAI. And look, I've been saying for, video after video after video after video now since this third right here, we are in way too much of a 50-50 zone. All right. Look, I have no crystal ball, right? I'm just looking at some technicals, looking at some lines, trying to make my best judgment, right? And there are moments where I need to like realize it's obviously everything is an unknown, right? But I'm here, there's too many things in my head right now. Las Vegas does really well with 52% odds versus 48, right? I'm not here trying to, expect 100% this is going to happen tomorrow, right? That's not it. But I'm here looking for setups that make me believe good things are going to happen, right? When this broke all the moving averages and was trying and trying and trying and trying and trying and finally does, and the lower indicators down here were just a lot healthier and all that, it's significantly different than when we're right here, right? And I think what's another important thing to remember, again, I don't know if you're going to watch the other tickers here or not, right? But there's a lot of good happening in other sectors. USAR is seemingly breaking all the moving averages and trying after it has tried for such a very long time. And even all this, there's not a like that's the first one over it. That's actually a decent confirmation. I'm surprised it didn't go, right? But then all of a sudden we're right back down. That's a good candle, can't confirm. All of a sudden, like this has been trying, just like the BBAI chart, right? When you look at let's do OMEX next. When you look at OMEX next, right, that's a strong candle with really good lower indicators. It seems like it's actually been over all the moving averages for a while. And if you look at this is the best 1-2 of them all, right? So again, I was flashing it in the opening thoughts, but there's a lot of other rare earth plays. Even SBET, I think is almost like, again, not the point. The point I'm here to say is right now we're in a place where I'm not sure how much BBAI craziness and strength and all that we have, right? You can see what was a good spacing from lines, a good spacing from lines. We're just so tight. And for me, what I had to do, and again, I'm never here to really tell you what I'm doing with my money. And just because I'm doing this doesn't mean you should, right? I could for sure be so wildly wrong tomorrow, right? I am completely out of BBAI. I will for sure get back in if we can get over this golden line. Because again, I know what BBAI can, has, and will do again once that gets over that, right? But to me, that's only a 10% move right there. And I don't want to say only because that's a good double digit, right? But still got to get over the 8 MA we've been under for so long. I kind of talked about in the beginning how this NASDAQ, not the best of candles. We open all the way up here, but we drop a full percent. We drop $200 from the 800s to the 600s, right? SP 500 under the 8 MA, Dow Jones actually even uglier under the 8 MA, right? So I'm still bullish on the NASDAQ because I have to be. And BBAI for sure is a tech heavy stock. But all of a sudden, I'm seeing some disjointment in the indices. I'm seeing us trading in a not fantastic zone. I think there are better opportunities out there, all right? And I don't have an endless supply of money, right? I can only buy so many tickers with my limited funds. And, it's one of those things where I had to let go of this to hopefully do better on other tickers. We'll see how it goes, but for me, it's what I've been saying for the last few weeks. We have to get over 770 before good things happen, all right? I think the most educated additional information I can give you is down here, and I have to start with volume. This is a pretty good view. No, this is the view, okay? Look at this white line right here. The average volume, average 50-day of volume is this, right? That white line. I always joke, and it's just a funny thing, but it's true. The average student in a classroom is a C student, all right? I'm not asking you to get a C plus, let alone a B plus or even an A minus, right? If you can at least give me a C, I'm actually pretty happy, all right? The last time we were under, and I said all this yesterday without sound, and I feel so dumb as I'm saying this again. Look at this candle right here. On June 6th, our volume near the bottom of the box was 61 million. The average line was at 70. We were under the line. Since June 6th, we have been at or significantly over the line until the last 3 trading days. All right. On the 11th, we got 129 million, but we needed 136 under the line. Even worse on Monday, I don't even need to show you. You can see the gap under the white line, the black right there, and then the green, right? We were significantly below the line. Even today, we were at 128 instead of the 138 we needed. This is, let alone, not even, this is a drop of what, a little bit more than 50%, right? Because we were over 300 and we're under 150, right? So this is actually more than a 50% volume drop on top of a consistent inability to get over the white line. That's worrisome. That's actually more worrisome than red over green on both the MACD and the RSI. Because look, I could still say MACD's positive and I'm okay with that, which is actually true. 66 is actually still technically a little bit high of an RSI. It could probably drop as low as 56 and still be okay, right? That's concerning because now my volume is at a C minus, and you can't really do amazing things at a C minus, right? So all that said, I have to take a step away from this. Trust me, there was a point where selling was the hardest thing for me to do. I use these lines to make my educated guesses, hopefully go in a better place. I am watching the 770 line like a hawk and will be ready to jump back in once appropriate, right? So, yo, let me know if you disagree, right? I for sure can be entirely wrong. I'm at least giving you my thoughts for now. Look, I don't think this is going to go below 6, by the way. I think it's going to be really difficult to lose the $6 line because that 20 moving average has been a really good line for us so far, and I really don't yet have a reason to think otherwise, right? When you look at the weekly is actually not bad on its own either. We make a real good gap up. We are actually still within 50% of that weekly candle. We actually still have green over red on the weekly, right? So maybe if you're willing to take a longer time frame view than I am, hey, you've still got no reason to sell, right? Because these indicators actually look good. But yeah, just my thoughts. And one more time, I could be completely wrong. This thing pops 1,000,000,000% while my other ones don't. And, all that's going to happen is I'm going to look at this smile, try to learn from it, and trade another day. You know what I mean? So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. So I don't know exactly how to do this section, but I'm gonna flash, I think, all the tickers, all right? I don't even know how to do this section. So let's do a couple things. So there are a lot of rare earth tickers. It's this phrase right here. All right. He's using the word minerals. Again, same thing, right? These are a good list of tickers right here. A couple things are happening, and I think this is a solid. These are just my guesses, right? I don't really know any real facts behind this. But look, there was an Apple headline today that says that they're going to start producing more in the US because they don't want these like tariff punishments and this and that. You need really rare earth materials. And I'm saying that as an uneducated person, obviously, right? Because I really have no idea how to make these things. But it sounds like you need rare earth materials to make like these chips and semiconductors and this and that, right? Which in my head kind of makes sense. So all of a sudden, these US tickers might need to start producing more minerals and start digging and getting drill, baby, drill, right? So Apple headline. From there, look, it's a different ticker, and this is more oil based than rare earth, but the EPA just gave NAC some really good news about drilling in Alaska. And I'm using that kind of vaguely because, again, I don't really know the details too much, but yo, the EPA wasn't like, hey, what are you talking about? You can't drill in Alaska. They actually gave them positive news saying, hey, I think maybe drilling in Alaska might be realistic, right? So if the EPA is going to do that, they're probably going to say, go drill some rare earth minerals somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like Alaska was this rare gem that was supposed to be sacred. And like, dude, people died defending the pipeline and stuff, right? Like, it's real serious stuff, right? And all of a sudden, EPA almost doesn't care, right? So if they did it for that, what won't get approved, right? And then the last thing is, I saw something that the US might send Ukraine some weapons. All right, there's been a lot of rare earth headlines connected to Ukraine. So that 1, 2, 3 makes me really like all of these tickers, all right? And again, I'm flashing USAR. This thing ran and I see it going up after hours. Normally, I don't care, but I see where it's at. It's at 1580, all right? With USAR, this morning, I said, if it breaks 1575, I'll be thinking all-time highs. Within an hour and a half, it got to that 1575 line, and all of a sudden we're actually over it. Okay, where did I get the line from? Where is the line? Let's just draw it. I think it was the top of this. No, not even close. Maybe it was 50% of this. Where's 1575? Where was it? I think it was that. It was basically the top of this candle. Interesting. I wonder why I picked 1575. I don't know. Really, look, the easy line, I don't want to use the word easy. I think the big line was probably, my goodness, whatever. Look, I'll use this. I think this was my thought, and I think this is why I started thinking all-time high. So that 1570, give or take, 1575, whatever you want to call it, is more than 50% of this big green candle. It's already into this green candle, and it puts you at nothing, 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 nothing. So you have what looks like an all-time high break. I think that's my best guess of where that line came from. Maybe the answer really is I was looking at the 1 and the 2, because again, we're looking at chart readers right here. Maybe that's where I got the line. But nonetheless, we are over my 1575 line, which I like. And again, just look at the view right here, right? There is absolutely nothing basically over 1560 in all honesty, right? So again, we're under the line. We close at 1555. You know, I always say after hours doesn't mean much, but USAR is pushing for an all-time high break with a beautiful MACD over the green, green over red, positive, very, very healthy RSI, crazy volume, biggest volume ever. Obviously, the weekly is going to be doing really, 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 really well, right? USAR crushing it, right? OMEX, another one. Big, big, strong candle, pushing after hours. We are just in the middle of a gap, and there's absolutely, just look, this is where we're at right now, right? There are no educated lines I can draw till at least right here at 240. Realistically, the first one's probably around 3 in all honesty, right? So maybe 275 now that I'm looking at the bottom of that, right? So I mean, there's a lot to like here. TMC just already bringing us a 10x push. What it just did was took the RSI from a very high 80, 79, whatever, all the way down to a very healthy 50. We're getting ready to what seems like go back up. I liked yesterday's candle. I love today's doji. It's still an interesting 50-50, but nice volume the last 4 days. This really, and again, kind of the same thing I just said with OMEX, has absolutely nothing going on until we get to our golden line, basically around $10, right? So I mean, you can, like I said, there are other tickers. You can look at MP, which just got a big Pentagon headline. AREC and NB, these both ran pretty well. And Mr. Onion dropped a couple. Citibank, I talked about that one. These are another 3 right here. I don't know if they're rare earth or not, but it was a reply to the comment. But those 3 right there, I'm telling you, rare earth seems really interesting. These are some interesting tickers. We're already at 25 minutes, so let me at least cover the last one that I wanted to, which was SBET. I think this thing froze on me. Come on, baby. Let me pause this real quick until it catches in and I'll come back. I'm sorry, 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Sorry about that. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. I want to end it out with SBET because this is in a really interesting place right now. And in a lot of ways, it is hard to decide what to do. So I'll just share. These were literally my thoughts from the last couple days ago. So Look, SBET is one that we've looked at before, right? So SBET is one I got in. I actually said that I bought it. You know, I'm really not here to talk about what I buy. The comment really was the gap has pretty much filled. And my reply to this was basically, I think there's one more leg, and this was my thought yesterday, for this thing to get to 30, right? We basically got to 29. It did the job that I was expecting, all right? My thought today really is what's about to happen next. And I think most of it is driven by that phenomenal volume growth. All right. That is almost picture perfect, better after better after better after better volume days. Just look at this history, right? Look at the weekly. Like this is the just the single best volume moment ever for the stock, and this thing's been around for a while. So the main headline here is this is the number one Ethereum holder that's a public company, right? That's a pretty big headline. All right, I know more people focus on Bitcoin, but I think ETH is ETH, whatever you want to call it, is arguably the second coin, right? So it's an interesting headline to say the least. And where are we? We're at the point where my next line is I mean roughly right there. I would say 48 is 50% of that candle right there, right? And as you zoom out, that's pretty much in line with this little 2023 horizontal moment. And if you break that, the next line is in the 80s. So I don't want you to think about the 80s at a $29 stock, right? But even a move to 40 is nice. And like I said, this entire channel is red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 right? Maybe there's something around here. I think these are basically the next three lines. If this thing goes up, right? 29 breaks, we'll go to 37. 37 breaks, we'll test 48. Okay. Otherwise, I would say under 25 is my death line. Because if you lose 25, it actually might be a pretty fast fall to 21. That's a 20% drop right there, right? You don't want to lose $4 on a $20 stock right there. But as long as this is over 25, I am actually really bullish. Yo, that is a 93 RSI. I think there's a good reason to think we'll come down towards 25, right? Let's reset this 90 something down, right? But as long as it holds that, I am comfortable. And realistically, that eight's going to keep coming up these next couple days, right? So hopefully it'll just add that much more strength to the 25. I mentioned this in the opening thoughts. And again, this is where my confusion starts to come because I'm more of a short-term dude than a long-term. But this is a really nice weekly chart, right? Let's even call last week an outlier. I'm totally okay with that. We've been growing so steadily, and we still have 2 more days of trading, right? So even if we call last week an outlier, this is the best week of trading again ever on SBET. The ticker starts right here, right? So there's some real significant volume things happening, and where the daily is really hot at the RSI, that's a beautiful MACD reset on top of what looks like nicer indicators on the weekly, right? So I say this often, and I really don't say this just for my personal like algorithm stuff. There are some really educated traders in this community. There are some that I know, I don't even think, I know that they are significantly better than me, right? So nothing's financial advice. We're all just sharing thoughts and opinions, but sometimes it's good to read the comments that other people put, and then go out, do your due diligence, whether it's fundamental, technical, whatever, right? But SBET, I did not find this stock, but all of a sudden, because of the community, I'm almost up 50%, right? I basically got in around this 20, and lo and behold, right there, right? So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions. Even if you disagree, I appreciate you so much.